Afternoon all. Okay, this week I thought we'd do something special. I was in two minds whether to look at Nakamura games from the Norway tournament or Magnus Carlsen. But we've had a very strong Grandmaster pass away recently on Saturday just gone, Lothar Schmid. So I thought we could go over some of his games. I've gone over a game already on the channel today, but there's some very attractive little games which could be very instructive to many players. So let's have a look at some of these games of Lothar Schmid. Rest in peace. He was not only an over-the-board Grandmaster, he was also a Correspondence Grandmaster, a world-renowned arbiter, even arbitering in the 1972 Fischer-Spassky match, and also I think he was a Master of Compositions GMC title, which earlier I had some confusion with. I think it's a Grandmaster related to compositions, composition Grandmaster, that's creating very intriguing problems, compositions. So let's have a look at Glenn Gibbs against Lothar Schmid, played in Lugano tournament of 1968. Lothar playing black. Okay, I hope the board's okay on Twitch before we carry on. Okay, so e4 from Glenn, and Lothar played knight f6, the Alekhine defense. We see knight c3, which is a move which I like playing. It kind of tries to avoid the theory of the Alekhine defense, not going in for the provocation to play e5. Lothar reacted energetically with d5 here, and now Glenn took on d5, and we see knight takes d5, and white supported his c3 knight with knight ge2. I think black's already nearly equal here. It looks as though, you know, black's got this pressure on the d file. This bishop and this bishop are potentially very good in this position. Also the d4 control could be pronounced, and it is with knight c6. So black seems to be standing well already, and in fact with the bishop blocked in here, white's virtually forced into a fianchetto here, and he plays g3, and we see a natural move. Forget playing e6 or, you know, trying to do something about this bishop or castling, just bishop g4, and it looks like a nasty pin here on the knight. And white was probably expecting now, after bishop g2, for this knight to move on d5. Okay, but something very unexpected now happens in this position. I wonder if you can guess what black played here if I give you all 20 seconds. 20 rather than 10, because there's a lag on this stream on the Play Chess thing. So 20 seconds, what would you play here with the black pieces starting from now? So black to play, very clever move. Please don't look at the move score. Change your tab to opening book so we can play these guess the moves. It's not knight b4. There's been suggestions like, let's rule that out. Knight b4, nope. The b4 square's here. There's not knight b4. Neither knight to b4. Okay, let's have a look. Black in this position played, actually well done to the next level, played knight d4, and it looks as though this piece, it didn't move. What about this coordinated attack on d5? Okay, well, this pin looks as though it's tying white down a bit though. But white's, okay, he played bishop takes d5, and here, you know, if this knight took here, then maybe white's got some trick to play. For example, bishop takes f7 check, and then knight takes e2. But guess what black played in this position, to the horror, I guess, of his opponent. To the horror of his opponent, what did black play? Another 20-second move quiz, starting from now. I'll get rid of the arrow. It's nothing to do with 92. That's one clue. Okay. Anyone? Want to take a guess? Okay. Well done to Jarowicz. So queen takes d5. Wow. What's going on here, you ask? Well, it's attacking the rook, but isn't the queen on freeze? If knight takes queen, we would have a forcing sequence here. Knight f3 check. And after king f1, actually bishop h3 is mate. So that knight cannot take here the queen. There'll be that lovely mating combination, exploiting the weak and light squares. So this has gone bad already for white after move 7. White tries f3, and now just queen takes f3 is very strong, attacking the rook. We see rook f1, and now just queen g2, maintaining that horrendous pin against the queen. And this is very difficult for white to do anything. What can white do here? He resigned. If he plays rook f2, then I think we've at least got, at minimum, we've got various strong moves. Queen h1 might be very strong for knight f3, or even knight f3 immediately. I think there's different ways of skinning the cat here. So white didn't even bother with rook f2. Let's have a look at another way. In fact, after rook f2, okay, we can go the check to test this out. Check here. Look, this looks quite convincing as well. Bringing the king out, it looks horrendous. So, but easiest is, I mean, simple to look at now is just knight f3 check, winning material. So very neat, quick game there, showing that the central break d5, forcing white into this fianchetto. Very energetic play. Just knight d4, refusing to move a piece. I think that's a very key thing. Sometimes we're obsessed with routineness, routine moves. If the opponent threatens something, we tend to want to move it. So here there's like rebellious move instead. Knight d4, rebelling against the threats, creating counter sacrifices and counter threats. So this queen takes d5. It's worth remembering this game pattern. So let's have a look at another game. Very cute games I found on chessgames.com notable games for Lothar. So this next game, okay, is against, believe it or not, our good friend Bogolojibo. I'm gonna stick at Bogolojibo for pronunciation, but yeah, he turned up in the bad permanent tournament of 1949, playing white against Lothar. 1949. So e4, and this game is given a very interesting nickname actually on chessgames.com, horse racing. So I wonder if you can spot why it might have been called that. So he plays e5 here against Bogolojibo, or Bogo from now on. Knight f3, knight c6. We see all the horses coming out. 4 knights variation. I'll use horses rather than knights because this is so funny, this game. You'll understand why soon. So d4, e takes d4, knight takes d4, and now a bit of a surprising move is played in this position. Okay. The move is actually knight takes e4, believe it or not. And you might think, well, why can't white actually take this knight, this horse? Knight takes e4. I believe queen e7 is embarrassing for white here. If queen e2, we just take on d4. I believe this is the move anyway, queen e7. I should have really engine checked this before, but this looks as though it's winning the piece back. If knight c6, we take with check, and then we take on c6 after. So it looks as though, you know, knight takes e4 isn't that hot in this position for white to play. So white now plays knight takes c6. And now, curiously, black, well, he hasn't got too many choices here because he's got this knight hanging still. He can't just recapture on c6. So he plays knight takes c3, which helpfully stops the queen e2 check. It's covering the e2 square. Now white played knight takes d8. Okay, these horses are really going places now. Knight takes d1. I don't think this is a made-up game. There's an accusation this is a made-up game. We get a desperado tactic now from white. What can white usefully do as a desperado? Well, knight takes f7. White wants black to take, and then, you know, we take on d1. But black now counters with a desperado himself with knight takes f2, and he wants white to take so we can take here. And then we've got things like bishop c5 potentially to look forward to. Okay, and now we see knight takes h8, and now knight takes h1. It's a really outrageous opening sequence. So what has happened here? We've got a kind of symmetrical position now, completely symmetrical with white to move. And you might think, how can white possibly lose this game if it's white to move? Well, or how can anyone possibly lose it, rather? Given that, you know, it's quite symmetrical at the moment. Okay, but if anyone's going to win it, surely it's white. So white's got the move, and he uses it, it seems, quite wisely now. White plays bishop d3, which seems very usefully attacking h7. So both horses are stranded, clearly. But doesn't black face bigger difficulties because of this bishop d3? He can't really carry on bishop d6. It would be silly, wouldn't it? Bishop d6. You know, white's going to end up checking first. If we play bishop d6, bishop h... If we follow this line... Okay, this is now ridiculous. Let's imagine bishop d6, bishop takes h7, bishop takes h2. The problem is white can break the symmetry here, surely, potentially, usefully, with bishop g6, if that's any use. Or there could be a stronger idea. Okay, but black actually decided none of this symmetry, forget bishop d6. He actually plays bishop c5. So it's a pawn sacrifice. Symmetry is now broken. So what's happening here? This knight stuff going on is extremely weird and unique. And isn't white just winning the h7 pawn here? He does take time to win h7, but now black's knight is coming out. So white's won material, but given black time to get the knight out a little bit. But you might think, hold on, white's getting his knight out as well. He's carved out the g6 square for the knight to go to. But there's no rush, surely. So he plays bishop f4. And potentially if this knight moves, maybe even castling... Well, if the knight moves here, then bishop takes anyway. The knight's kind of still stranded. If knight g4, maybe, you know, castling queenside. But what about c7 as well? c7 is protected with d6. Then we see bishop g6, which gives the knight one less option. It can only go to f7 now to get out. King f8. But what about this knight? Isn't that stranded? Bishop g3 attacking that. Knight g4. Has white been overly materialistic? Given black maybe some more time? Knight f7, isn't this knight coming out to g5 now? Well, black has got a little bit of extra time now on white. This entrenched knight is now quite dangerous after e3, more dangerous than its counterpart. Threatening, knight takes c2 potentially, but it's protected, or knight g2, it's protected at the moment. King d2. Now we see bishop f5, which attacks this and potentially gives black a little more time for some dangerous stuff. So what's happening here? Knight g5, making sure he's not losing that knight, but he's losing the bishop. Why does he do this? Why did white just do this knight g5 move? Before we go with the game continuation, let's step back for a moment. In this position, I think it might actually have been possible for white maybe to play simply and carefully with bishop takes f5, knight takes f5, and then move the knight. And I think this shouldn't be too bad for white. Okay, but in the game continuation, okay, we see white playing knight g5. Okay, so this is a clever idea, it seems, to sacrifice the bishop. So what's happening here? Bishop takes g6, check, which is attacking c7, and also c5. So white's idea is to take on c5, then take on e3. It seems white has in all this a materialistic tendency. Black has a tendency so far to want to play dynamically, to get some time to do something interesting, but white wants to collect material, it seems, with this plan, to at least be pawn up or something. We see king e7, knight takes c5, but in this position now, black has knight takes c2, which covers even the e1 square against check, so he's attacking the rook. Okay. Unfortunately, it looks as though white's in a bit of trouble here. He's got two pieces now attacked. What are you doing here? Can he make use of this check to alter the situation? Bishop h4. The king doesn't have to step on the f-file though. Doesn't have to allow this. The king can just step back. So e1 is covered. White's blown this because now he's got two pieces attacked. But there's a final little episode, knight e6, threatening knight takes c7 check. But here, now we see king d7, and again two pieces attacked. So white trying to be materialistic, but this is getting a little bit tricky. He plays knight f4, being content to be the exchange down. Knight takes a1, another stranded knight. Knight takes g6. Rook e8. Okay, now rook e8, it looks as though knight f4, there might be rook e4 and then maybe rook a4 to rescue this knight. White now played bishop f2, and can you spot now the tactic that's used to rescue the knight in this position? If I give you 20 seconds here, so how do we rescue this horse over here? If I give you 20 seconds starting from now. Anyone? Okay, some people have seen it. Okay, well done, Fiend of Chess, JF Element on stream. Knight c2. Yeah, trying to distract the king from the e2 square. So if king takes, we've got rook e2 check now, and we're still the exchange up. This doesn't look good now for white. The exchange down. He plays knight f4, but after knight b4, he resigns. He believes he's lost and resigns in this position. So yeah, I thought that was an incredible game start. I've not seen this kind of knight desperados from an opening before. I don't know how many of you have seen such a game before. Very interesting. So it's starting off with knight takes e4. I think Mr. Unstoppable's got a question. Bishop e3 check. Sorry, what move? Try and work out where there was a bishop e3 check. So knight takes d1. Desperado, desperado. Symmetrical position. Bishop d3. We don't want bishop g6. So bishop c5, bishop h7. Knight f2, bishop f4. Oh, knight g. Okay, knight g5 coming up. So knight f7, knight e3. King d2, bishop f5. Ah, yes. Pardon me. Yes. Now, in a variation we'd seen here, I'd mentioned bishop takes, knight takes, knight g5. This fells, yeah, it seems, to bishop e3, bishop e3 check, unless there's something after this which changes the picture. So this doesn't look as though it's possible. So say, okay, where do we move the king? Bishop takes, and this rook f1, I don't think rook f1 is helping. We just play g6. G6 would do, I think. I think white can grab maybe one more pawn. I'm not sure. It's still the bishop down. If we take and then g4, I don't think it's enough for being a piece down. So okay, so that explains where maybe in this position, after bishop f5, could white already be in trouble then after bishop f5? Maybe it's better 17 knight h8, Falbeno says. 17 knight h8. Putting the knight back on h8 in this position. You're suggesting knight h8. Wow. Knight h8. Can we not do it in this position king g8 to munch this knight? I think we're getting this knight after king g8. 21 h4 wins back the piece. Okay, let's have a look at this point of the game. We go to move 21. 21 h4 wins back a piece. Pardon me. I'm not sure about that. h4 is not a legal move here. Go on, cats. The knight e6 was in the game continuation. Okay, bit confused. So shall we move on to another game? I've got some cute games to show from Lothar, so let's go on to another game. So I thought that was quite amusing. Let's just review the rest of that game, how that panned out. So this was the end of white here, the exchange down. Okay, so here I think this game is against someone called Sills in 1971. Can you imagine? He's an arbiter for the Fischer-Spassky match in 1971. He's still playing as well. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So 1971. I think this might be a correspondence game. It's got CR. That might be correspondence. Okay, so he's playing black, and this is called the Traxler counterattack game. So here in the Gyoko piano, knight f6 inviting the fried liver, and black plays bishop c5, and I'm not entirely sure of the current verdict on bishop c5, if this is meant to be unsound. It's another case where I think Lothar's keen to give up material to gain time. So Kasparov's quality material time. He's giving up material here. So we see bishop takes f7, king e7. Traxler counter gambit. You think it's unsound, fiend of chess. Okay, fiend for chess. Okay. I think it's quite dangerous though. Every time I see this opening, it seems black's usually winning myself. But anyway, so bishop goes back because white has lost a bit of time. d6, c3, and black's also got this f-file dynamic play on the f-file, which is immediately emphasizing white castles. Then we see bishop g4, a nasty looking forcing move. I mean, you can imagine the natural move seems to be a disaster now for white. If white plays knight f3, well, we've got this horrendous pin. We can play surely knight h5 here. Looking forward to just playing bishop takes f3. Very, very dangerous, potentially, I think. So white plays the awkward looking queen e1. Okay, so we've got a nice pin here. We've got nice f-file pressure. We can kick this knight on g5. Now white in this position played actually h3, but white's getting a nice attacking line now down the h-file after h takes g, h takes g4. We have rook h8 with a menacing forcing move in principle of rook h1, and in fact after d4, okay, I might have given you a clue, so I'm going to say it. This menacing forcing move, can you actually see if it's useful in this position? Okay, can I set you that as a challenge? How could rook h1 be useful? Does everyone see it? If I give you 20 seconds here, can you try and work out if it's dangerous or not in this position, in this particular position? So 20 seconds starting from now. So the challenge is get complete proof in your own mind if rook h1 is working or not. Is it a move you'd play here? So 20 seconds starting from now. Okay. Alright, there's a key thing about this, okay, which makes it sound, the very key thing, rook h1, we play it, okay, king takes. Now the key thing, which I hope you've all seen here, is what is the move here that you'd play? I think it's a key thing anyway. I believe it's a key thing because black has some liabilities in this position with the king on e7, so you have to be very careful, very accurate here. What would you play in this position? If I give you 20 seconds starting from now. Remember, your king's on e7, so there's either going to be minus 200 points or plus 200 points for the move you choose here. What move would you choose? Anyone? Black to play. On Play Chess, please don't use the notation tab. Go to the openings book tab if you've got an openings book tab. Knight takes f4 is an illegal move. Come on, get the notation right. Knight takes g4 minus 200 points. Fiend of chess. I'll show you why I'm giving you minus 200, because bishop takes g5. We're on a skewering line here. We've got a king on e7. In principle, we shouldn't be attacking with our king relatively unsafe, but it so happens this is winning for black if the right move is played, which is check. Get the queen out of the skewering line first. King moves, and now knight takes g4. And in this position, white can't save this. If bishop takes g5 here, I think we can just move the king, unless there's some amazing stuff which white has, which is unlikely. I think bishop e6 is harmless. I think we can just take it. White's going to run out of checks and reach this position, unavoidable mate. So yeah, queen h8 check. Just wins here after knight takes g4. Doesn't matter about bishop g5. So white actually resigned. Actually, I don't think he even played. He didn't even play bishop takes g5 check. He resigned after knight takes g4. Nice of him. So, okay, I thought these are cute games. That's why I'm showing you them to start off with. And, okay, let's have another interesting one. So this is against Muff in 1949. Bamberg, West Germany. So playing white, so we'll flip the board. So he plays the English opening against Muff. So e5, we see knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6. Now e4, black plays bishop c5, and white now tries to break down black's central control with a temporary piece sack. Knight takes e5. So with the idea after knight takes e5 that he's going to play d4 now. Okay, so he's going to get his piece back, it seems. Bishop d6. And you might think, well, hold on a sec, do we take this knight immediately, or is there something stronger? Well, actually, he doesn't take the knight back immediately. He plays c5, which is quite annoying. If the bishop goes back, then d takes. This is quite annoying. It's better to do c5 than d takes here. If we play d takes e5 immediately, then this looks okay for black. He's even threatening to damage, the pawn structure. So c5, just keep maintaining being a piece down for a moment. Black plays now bishop takes c5, and white goes with gaining tempo with d takes e5 to chase the knight on f6. Knight g8, and now another tempo gain with queen g4 on that g7 pawn. Black goes to defend that with king f8. And now we see queen g3 stepping out of the way of any d6 or d5, so holding on to the e5 pawn. d6, and now bishop g5 attacking the queen moves to e8, and now not fearing his king in the centre for the moment, he plays e takes d6, bishop takes d6, now bishop f4. So at the moment, the situation is on pawns that white appears to be a pawn. Sorry, pardon me. We're equal on pawns, but the king's been dislodged. We're 6 pawns each. So bishop b4 and white castles queenside. Okay, and black gets greedy. He plays bishop takes c3. Just trying to win a centre pawn, potentially. Or is that the idea? Well, his c7's hanging, so I don't think he's that attractive for queen takes e4 here. In fact, he wants white, after this next move, to take on c7. He just plays bishop e6. There's a c file to make use of here. If we take this pawn, it's not going to be very nice. So bishop e2. Here, if bishop takes a2, we've got at least check, winning that bishop. So this pawn can't be taken on a2. Knight e7, rook d2. White's advantage is in the rooks here. Look how these rooks can coordinate and double. Look at black's rooks. The king is getting in the way here of natural development. f6, rook hd1, nicely doubling. Queen a4 looks aggressive. But now white plays bishop h5 with a menacing threat of rook d8 check, with the king getting mated potentially. And we see now after knight c6 an interesting position. I believe this was in the notes of this game. White actually played bishop takes c7 here, which is a good move as well. But I think there's a very interesting concept in this position. If I give you 20 seconds, I wonder if you can spot it. Bishop takes c7 is kind of straightforward, but what else is there in this position which might attract you? I'm not actually. I should have really checked this thoroughly before mentioning it. I'm hoping this is a correct observation. I'm actually just hoping this is a correct observation about this position. Okay, let's go with rook d7 for a laugh. Okay. What is white actually threatening? Well, it's pretty nasty to have a rook on the 7th. Let's just imagine black takes it. We have some attacking moves here. We have bishop h6 threatening queen f6. I mean, this might be good, but it requires, you know, calculation. What about king e7, for example? On bishop takes g7, you know, it could get murky. Or rook takes d7 does look dangerous. Is there anything stronger before going on to bishop h6? Maybe just rook takes d7 is very strong, because we can have other threats now, like queen takes f6 is pretty quick, and this looks fairly dangerous. So let's have a look. Rook d8, for example. Queen takes f6. G takes bishop h6. King g8. How about bishop f7? That's mate. This is all pretty dangerous. I think, you know, on engine check in this game there might have been this tactical possibility, because how does actually black defend this position after rook takes d7 if queen takes f6 is actually a serious threat here? You imagine black's kind of without too many defensive resources here. The queen's not getting back in time. This does seem to be a very dangerous position. We could try h6 just to stop the queen f6 idea. I think just queen c5 looks strong. So if king g8, we've got bishop f. No, we've got. Actually, the king can go out here. Hang on a sec. So h6. What's the killer move after h6? Out of interest. Queen takes f6 again. I think we'll go queen c5 check, king g8. Oh, bishop f7 is mating, isn't it? Look at this, we're mating here. I'm pretty sure this is an engine move, rook d7. I just didn't work it. I didn't check it all out, but I'm pretty sure it was winning rook d7 by force. It looks, you know, visually that black shouldn't be able to defend. He's playing two rooks down here. It's only an exchange sacrifice we've done, and we've created a wealth of forcing moves like bishop h6 and queen f6 and rook f7. We've got 3 different forcing moves here, well 4 if you include this one as well. So I'm not entirely sure there's any defence, or there shouldn't be any defence, rather. That by logic, by visual logic of this position, the white king is not that unsafe. From a visual logic perspective, it looks as though black deserves to be mated here. But anyway, sorry, sidetracking from the game. So in the game, Lothar just played bishop takes c7, okay, and black took on e4, and now this is starting to get uncomfortable for the queen. Actually, after b3, this queen hasn't got too many good squares, because if queen b4, well, we can play bishop d6. So where is the queen going here? You might think queen, I don't know, queen's got h4, queen's got f5. Okay, he went to f5, and in this position, I mean, it seems useful to attack the bishop, but white just plays g4, protecting the bishop and attacking the queen again. The queen's been run out of squares. In fact, after queen e4, can you see what white plays here? I think I've given you too many clues about the queen, so I'm just going to show you. f3 just strands the queen. Can't go to f4. Can't really go to b4 without bishop d6. There's no squares for the queen. Even g6 is stopped. Queen's been checkmated virtually. And black had to resign here. So let's see, that was a much that was a simple continuation, wasn't it? So let's have a quick look what happened there. Again, knight takes e5, not immediately taking the knight, but c5. And now getting this huge initiative after this knight goes to g8, going for that g7, forcing king f8. And you've got the problem with the rooks. Look at white's rooks now, what they do compared to black's rooks, because of this king f8. Basically, white's able to, he's developing his, getting ready for casting queenside, and you know, one rook is now in action on the centre file. Doesn't mind about e4 here, that's not a concern. So queen, sorry, bishop e6, we see bishop e2, and now rook, just simple rook d2, just emphasising the rooks are much better than black's rooks. So f6, rook hd1. These rooks are just beautiful. This is the whole problem with the king on f8. So queen a4. I mean, black's it looks as though maybe black's trying to attack, but it's just refuted now. It's just refuted. This move just stops everything in its tracks, weaving a mating net with bishop h5 with a very nasty threat, making use of the rooks. Ah. Have I managed to lose connection or something? Ah, whoops. Okay, I think